Today we are going to deal with internal structure of kidney, human kidney. In the previous class we have studied about the external features of human kidney. Now we are going to study the lateral section LS of human kidney. The figure of human kidney in LS, that is lateral section, will be showing this diagram. If you clearly observe a goat's kidney, if you cut it into half exactly in the middle, then you can see the same similar portion which is drawn on the board. So it will be consisting of outer part which is dark reddish in color, and in the middle portion you will be finding some light reddish color or somewhat whitish color structure, whitish color portion. So outer portion is called as cortex and inner portion is called as medulla. Outer portion which is dark reddish color, which is showing a dark reddish color in the lateral section of transection of the kidney, it shows cortex, which is outer portion, last page. Outer portion will be consisting of dark reddish in color, which is known as cortex, and inner portion is known as medulla. This portion is known as medulla, and the outer portion excluding this, the remaining portion, this entire portion excluding this one is known as cortex. The inner portion which will be whitish in color, if you have seen a goat's kidney, not liver, kidney, then you can see the whitish portion which we call it as medulla, and the outer portion which is dark reddish in color will be cortex. This cortex consists of several projections. These are known as projections. Each projection is called as calyx. They are called as calyces, which looks like similar to that of a calyx of a flower. Do you remember the structure of calyx of a flower? If you remember the structure of a calyx of a flower, then the bottom portion green before the petals are going to arise, that is, if it is a rose flower, this greenish portion, the green leaf-like structures which are present at the bottom of the flower, they are called as sepals. Group of sepals are known as calyx. Since this picture resembles that of calyx of a flower, these portion which are looking like the calyx of a flower are known as calyces. This portion, these projections together, bunch of this portion is called as calyces. Actually, this bunch of portion consists of minute microscopic parts which are called as nephron. These are the functional units of kidney. These are the structural and functional unit of kidney. The structural and functional unit of kidney is known as nephron. So these nephrons are present in the outer part, that is calyx. And this small portion which you see in the calyx, those are the structures of nephron. So these are the nephrons which will be actually performing the entire duty of absorption and whatever we call is the production of urine, entry of blood into this portion and removal of waste material in the form of urine will be done by this portion, that is cortex, which is consisting of calyces. Inside the calyx we have nephron. So each nephron, there are nearly 1.8 million nephrons in human kidneys. Not a single nephron, but 1.8 million nephrons will be present in a single human kidney. So this is the external features. Into this, the outer portion of the kidney is known as hilus, which will be comprising of a arteriole which will be entering into the blood, which will be allowing the blood to flow in, and a vein, that is renal vein, which will be allowing the blood to come out. Apart from this, the third part which will be coming out as a projection is known as ureter. So there will be three portions which will be coming out and coming in. That is arteriole, renal artery, renal vein. Renal artery will be carrying the blood from the various parts to the kidney, and renal vein will be carrying the blood from the kidney, that is filtered blood from the kidney to the heart. And the third portion which will be coming out of this portion kidney is ureter. So now let us see the structure of nephron. What is actually nephron and how it is present. This picture which you are seeing is the actual nephron which will be doing the function of, performing the function of entire filtration of urine from the blood, separation of waste material from the blood is known as filtration, and that we call it as ultrafiltration, and which happens in the each nephron. So there are nearly 1.3 to 1.8 million nephrons in our body, in each kidney. So each one will be performing the same function as that of the others. That is, each and every neuron which is present, that is, which are around 1.8 million neurons, will be performing the same function, that is, removing the waste material from the blood. Now let us see what is the structure of nephron and how it is going to carry out. Internal structure shows each nephron. Each nephron will be having two main parts, renal tubule and Malpighian body. It consists of two main parts, Malpighian body and renal tubule. Malpighian body, it in turn consists of two parts, that is Bowman's capsule and glomerulus. This cup-like structure which you are seeing is known as Bowman's capsule, a cup-like structure. A cup-like structure which is present in the topmost portion of the nephron is known as Bowman's capsule. Inside this Bowman's capsule, it consists of network of capillaries, that is blood capillaries, which forms glomerulus. Nephron consists of two portions, mainly Malpighian body and renal tubule. Malpighian body consists of Bowman's capsule, the cup-like structure which is the starting portion of the nephron is known as Bowman's capsule, and inside the Bowman's capsule it consists of nephron. I told you that artery, renal artery will be entering into the kidney, and after entering into the kidney it will be divided into small branches. Each branch is known as arteriole. The smallest part of artery is known as arteriole. So each arteriole will be entering into the Bowman's capsule. One portion, that is one of the arteriole, renal arteriole, will be entering into the Bowman's capsule, and it will be forming as net-like structure or net-like structure which will be known as glomerulus, and the incoming portion of the arteriole is known as afferent arteriole. The incoming one, this is afferent arteriole, AA, and the outgoing portion from the Bowman's capsule is known as efferent arteriole. When the renal artery enters into the kidney, it will be divided into branches, small branches. One will be divided to two, two will be divided to four. Likewise, it will be reciprocally, it will be dividing 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32, 32 to 64, like that. It will be going on. One of the finest branch, because we have 1.8 billion nephrons in our body, so each has to receive one efferent arteriole. So that many branches it will be divided. Each artery will be divided into that many branches. So I am talking about only one branch. So each single branch we call it as arteriole. The smallest fine portion of artery is known as arteriole. That arteriole which is entering into the first part of the nephron is known as afferent arteriole. It will enter into the Bowman's capsule and it will form as capillaries of network of capillaries, just like a mesh. And the outgoing portion of the arteriole is known as efferent arteriole. So the filtration process takes place. This entire glomerulus will be surrounded by a epithelium known as squamous epithelium. This entire portion of glomerulus will be surrounded by a layer, skin-like layer known as squamous epithelium. It is made up of squamous epithelium. This squamous epithelium will be consisting of small pores over its body. These cells are known as podocytes. The small pore-like structures which are present on the squamous epithelium of the glomerulus is known as podocytes. The thickness of efferent arteriole will be bigger than the thickness of efferent arteriole. That means as the efferent arteriole is going on, the thickness is going to decrease, because when the blood pressure, as a result of which the blood pressure increases. If you try to connect, for example, you might have seen motor connected to a pipe. So at the starting point, we will be consisting of more amount of pressure. As the length of the pipe increases, what happens? It decreases. And further, you might have observed that if the pipe size is going to be decreased, if pipe size is going to be decreased, the pressure increases from that point. If large pipe is attached to a motor and if small pipe has to be attached, then it will be attached with the help of a what do you call a bell-like structure. So after that, the small portion of the pipe which is receiving the water, in that pipe the pressure automatically increases. Is it clear? When compared to the large pipe, if the water is entering into the small pipe, then what happens? Pressure of the water in the small pipe increases. So similarly here, as the thickness of the afferent arteriole is larger and the thickness of efferent arteriole is smaller, when we are pushing the water from highest diameter pipe to a lowest diameter pipe, then the pressure here increases. As a result of which, as the pressure is increased, due to the squamous epithelium which is consisting of podocytes which are called as small pores, the blood gets filtered. Because of that pressure, the blood gets filtered. During this portion, that is filtration process and everything, we will see what will be filtered there. So now, this is about glomerulus. That is afferent arteriole. It will be entering in arteriole will be entering as afferent arteriole and will be leaving the glomerulus as efferent arteriole. This is Malpighian body, structure of Malpighian body. Then this Malpighian body, that is efferent arteriole, will be continued as renal vein, and it will be the next portion of nephron will be renal tubule. This entire portion which you are seeing here in the diagram is renal tubule, which starts with proximal convoluted tubule. The first portion is known as this portion, this pipe. This is Bowman's capsule and glomerulus Malpighian body. This is the ending portion of this glomerulus, that is Bowman's capsule, will be the starting portion, which is tubular portion. This tubular portion is known as proximal convoluted tubule. It will be continued as a U-shaped tube-like structure. A U-shaped tube-like structure which is known as Henle's loop. Now this portion is called as Malpighian body. In this Malpighian body we have couplage structure called as Bowman's capsule. Inside it consists of capillaries, network of capillaries which is known as glomerulus. The next portion, tubular portion, is which will be the end of Bowman's capsule, is known as renal tubule. Renal tubule consists of three parts. The starting part is known as proximal convoluted tubule. The tube which is arising from the Bowman's capsule is known as proximal convoluted tubule. It will be continuous as a U-shaped structure, U-shaped tube. This U-shaped tube is known as Henle's loop. And Henle's loop will be continued as distal convoluted tubule. This is the structure of a nephron. Over this, the blood capillaries will be there as a net. Just like a volleyball net or a shuttlecock net, they will be arranged over this nephron. Is it clear? So afferent arteriole will enter into the Bowman's capsule and it will be forming as capillaries of network. Then it will be leaving as efferent arteriole. The blood pressure in the afferent arteriole will be larger when compared to blood pressure in the efferent arteriole. As a result of which, the efferent arteriole will be consisting of more amount of blood pressure when compared to afferent arteriole. So as a result of which, the blood gets filtered over here. Then the remaining portion of the blood will be entering into the next portion and it will be continued. This efferent arteriole will be laying over this one, whereas it will be continued as renal tubule. The starting portion of the renal tubule is proximal convoluted tubule. Next it will be continued as loop of Henle or Henle's loop. And from the Henle's loop, the next last portion will be distal convoluted tubule. Distal convoluted tubule. Now let us see. This is the single nephron which is present here. Single nephron. A single portion I have explained you. Now let me explain what happens actually in the filtration process. Now I told you that When the blood enters as efferent arteriole in the glomerulus, then it takes glomerulus filtration, or we call it as glomerulus filtration will take place, where the entire blood cells will be separated from the remaining portion. Only blood cells get separated. Red blood cells, white blood cells and blood platelets. Since they are having small pores, through those pores the blood cells cannot be entering into that portion. Only the rest of the portion, that is plasma, which consists of several other waste materials including the organic and inorganic material, will be entering, leaving out only blood cells. Blood cells will be present, will be filtered in the glomerulus, so it is called as glomerulus filtration. Next, whatever the material, leftover material, the remaining portion of the blood will be entering into loop of Henle and tubular portion, where tubular reabsorption will take place. Whatever the excess amounts of salts, water which are present in the next portion, that is in the plasma, will be reabsorbed by loop of Henle and this portion. Entire urine, whatever the water that is being there in the blood plasma, whatever which is necessary for our body will be reabsorbed, and the rest portion will be moving from these canals. From this channel it will be moving out, and it will be, next will be tubular secretion. Tubular secretion means rest of the portion, whatever the urine that is formed, hypotonic urine, which we will be calling as hypotonic urine, will be formed and it will be entering into this portion which is called as medulla. From the medulla it will be collected by ureter. From the ureter it will be collected by urinary bladder, and from the urinary bladder it will be sent out through urethra. This is the entire structure of nephron. Internal structure of kidney consists of two portions, outer cortex and inner medulla. Outer cortex will be reddish brown in color, medulla will be light reddish in color, or some portion it will be whitish in color. Inner cortex will, outer cortex will be consisting of calyx-like structure, which will be looking similar to that of calyx of a flower, which are known as calyces. Each calyces will consist of nephron. Each nephron will consist of two parts, Malpighian body and renal tubule. Malpighian body will be consisting of Bowman's capsule and glomerulus. Malpighian body will consist of Bowman's capsule and glomerulus. Bowman's capsule will be allowing the arteriole to enter into it. The entering arteriole is known as afferent arteriole, and it will be forming as network of capillaries, which is known as glomerulus, and it will be leaving out as efferent arteriole. The entire glomerulus will be surrounded by epithelium known as squamous epithelium, which will be consisting of small pores over its body. It is known as podocytes, through which it will not allow the blood cells to come out of it. So blood cells will be filtered there. Blood cells means red blood cells, white blood cells and blood platelets will be left over here. Remaining portion, whatever that is present in the blood, will be entering into the next portion, that is into the renal tubule. From the renal tubule will be consisting of three parts: proximal convoluted tubule, U-shaped structure called as Henle's loop or loop of Henle, and the long tube which will be continued, Henle's loop will be continued as distal convoluted tubule, the last portion, and the entire blood capillaries will be thrown it over this Henle's loop and this tubular portion, where reabsorption of urine, whatever the body salts which are present, salts, water, whatever it may be, which is present in the blood, will be reabsorbed. So if, for example, 1 liter of blood is going to be passed through a nephron, let me assume, example, out of this 80% to 90% of water and everything will be reabsorbed. Only 10% will be excreted, that means it will be passed out. And that passed out portion we call it as urine. So tubular reabsorption will take place. Filtration will take place in glomerulus, which is called as ultrafiltration or glomerulus filtration, where blood cells will be separated from the blood. Blood cells will be separated from the blood. That is, only plasma and organic and inorganic salts will be present. Leftover blood cells will be separated, and that portion will be passed into next, that is tubular portion, where we call it as tubular reabsorption occurs in proximal convoluted tubule, Henle's loop and here. That is, whatever the salts which are required by the body will be reabsorbed. Whatever the amount of water which is required by our body will be reabsorbed. Only some portion, that is 10% to 15% of excess amounts of salts and water will be passed into the next portion, that is from here to medulla. From the medulla it will be passed into ureter. From the ureter it will be passed in the urinary bladder, through which through the urethra it will be expelled out. And the formation of hypotonic urine consists of nearly 96% of water, 2.5% of organic salts, organic materials, 1.5% of inorganic. I think most of you know the difference between organic and inorganic compounds. Carbon containing compounds are called as organic compounds and non-carbon containing compounds are called inorganic compounds. So we have glucose, vitamins, amino acids, urea, uric acid, etc. will be present, which will be coming as under organic compounds. So urine consists of those material, urea, glucose, uric acid, ammonia, etc. will be present in small portion, that is around 2.5%, and 1.5% of inorganic compounds, just like phosphate, sodium chloride, sulfate, etc. will be present. So this is the concentration of urine which will be passed out from human body. Out of 100% of urine which is passed out, 96% will be water, 2.5% will be organic salts. Organic salts constitute glucose, your uric acid, urea, ammonia, etc., which will be coming under organic compounds, which consists of C, carbon containing compounds. And 1.5% of inorganic compounds will be passed out from your body, which will be sodium chloride, phosphate, sulfate, etc. material will be passed. So this is the concentration of urine which will be passed out from our body. You might be observing that entire amount of water which you take inside our body will not be excreted as it is. If you take 10 liters of body in a day, you will be excreting out 1 to 2 liters of urine in a day. Rest of the portion will be water will be utilized for different activities of your body. So urine will be passed from the tubular secretion into the ureter. From ureter it will be passing into urinary bladder. This is external, which we have seen yesterday. External features of kidney. Ureter to urinary bladder. From urinary bladder it will be expelled out through urethra. So the concentration of urine will be this much: 96% of water, 2.5% of organic salts, and 1.5% of inorganic salts. This is the concentration of urine that will be passed out.